I just went to my first Pokemon card show at Front Row, and trust me, it was nothing like I imagined. I saw crazy singles, crazy deals being made, and even learned a few tricks from some collectors. My goal going in was simple. I wanted to find cards worth grading for my first PSA submission. But after about 5 hours of hunting tables, making deals, and figuring out unspoken rules, I walked away with lessons every new collector needs to hear. Some of these tips could save you serious money. But before we dive into my card show adventure, let me quickly mention today's sponsor. If you're tired of missing out on restocks or paying inflated prices for Pokemon TCG products, check out PokeNotify, who is kindly sponsoring today's video. PokeNotify monitors hundreds of sites worldwide, so you'll know the moment products drop. No more refreshing pages all day hoping to catch a restock. This service has been a game changer for my collection strategy, and PokeNotify is what I used to help me secure several Elite Trainer boxes and booster bundles at MSRP, all from the comfort of my own home. You can try it free for 3 days, and if you decide to stick with it, use the code PALATPICS25 to get 25% off your first month. The link is down below in the description. Now, speaking of getting into the show, let me tell you about my lucky break with tickets. Here's something that almost derailed my entire card show experience before it even began. I was planning to buy a ticket at the door, which would have been around like $15 for a single day or $20 for both days. But just as I was about to head in, someone named Dakota actually reached out to me and offered me their free ticket. So Dakota, if you're watching this video, thank you. That generous gesture saved me money and taught me my first lesson about the card community. People are genuinely helpful and willing to support you as fellow collectors. For future reference, I learned that advanced online tickets were only $10 for both days, which is pretty much savings compared to door prices. So if you're planning to attend a card show, definitely buy your tickets online ahead of time. The savings is really small, right? I mean, $5, $10, but every dollar counts when you're spending money on cards, right? This ticket situation also made me realize how much planning goes into a successful card show experience, but nothing would prepare me for what I encountered when I first walked through those doors. First impressions, sensory overload in card paradise. The moment I stepped into the Front Row card show convention space, I was completely overwhelmed. Hundreds of tables stretched out in every direction, each one packed with cards, memorabilia, and collectors examining potential purchases. This wasn't just a Pokemon card show, it was everything. Sports cards, Magic the Gathering, comic books, vintage memorabilia, and yes, tons of Pokemon cards, all under one massive roof. But here's something nobody warned me about. It was incredibly hot inside, and I'm not sure if it's because we were in Las Vegas where it was over 100 degrees outside, or it was because of the fact that there were hundreds of people breathing and moving around, or if the air conditioning in the Rio Hotel just couldn't keep up. Either way, dress comfortably and bring water. You'll be doing a lot of walking and standing, and the heat can be exhausting. One of the coolest discoveries was seeing how many Pokemon YouTubers were vending at the show. I spotted Bulbasaur and Garchomp's collectibles, among others. Many had professional camera setups at their tables, which made sense because since they're at a card show, this provides a really good opportunity for content. And it was exciting to see creators I'd watched online actually running their own vendor booths. Standing there, taking in the massive scale of everything, I realized I had no strategy for navigating this maze of cards. That's when I decided to just start walking and see what caught my eye. A decision that led to some interesting encounters. Table 1, the Stern Professionals at True Collectibles. My first stop was at a booth called True Collectibles, and this encounter taught me a valuable lesson about vendor personalities and negotiation styles. The vendors here were, let's say, business focused, and they weren't unfriendly, but they were just stern and basically had a no-nonsense to their approach. I ended up purchasing 7 cards from their collection, and after some brief negotiation, they offered me 90% of market value for the number of cards that I bought. Looking back, this was actually a pretty fair deal, especially considering I was buying multiple cards. The transaction was efficient and professional, but it lacked the personal connection that I was hoping for. This experience taught me that not every vendor interaction will be warm and chatty. Some are purely transactional, and that's okay. What matters is getting fair prices and quality cards. However, this somewhat cold interaction made me appreciate the warmer vendors I encountered later even more. As I walked away from True Collectibles with my first card show purchases, I was curious to see how the next vendor would be. Table 2, supporting small vendors with small purchases. The second table I visited was a much smaller operation, and this is where I learned an important lesson about card show etiquette and supporting vendors. I only picked up 2 cards for my personal collection, spending about just $10 total. And here's the thing, when you're only spending $10 and the individual cards cost $4 and $6, I personally didn't feel right trying to negotiate. Instead, I paid full price of what they were asking as a way to support the vendor. And this might seem like a small gesture, but I could tell the vendor appreciated it, and it felt like the right thing to do. This experience taught me that not every purchase needs to be a negotiation battle. Sometimes, especially with smaller vendors or lower price items, Paying the asking price is a way to show respect for their time and effort. These vendors have driven hours to get here. If not driven, flew. They paid for table space and they spent their weekend trying to make a living from their passion. The positive interaction at this table gave me confidence as I headed to my next stop, where I'd encounter a completely different type of inventory. Table 3, the mid-range gold mine. The third table I visited had an impressive selection of mid-range singles, and this is where I started to find cards that fit my grading goals. I ended up purchasing only 2 cards here, but both were potential PSA 10 candidates, with clean surfaces and sharp corners. What made this table special was the vendor's organization and knowledge. Every card was properly sleeved, prices were clearly marked, and the vendor could answer detailed questions about card conditions and printing variations. This level of professionalism made me feel confident about the quality of my purchase. Negotiation here was straightforward. I asked for about a small discount for buying multiple cards, and we settled on a fair price quickly. No drama, no pressure, just a smooth transaction between 2 people who hopefully understood the hobby, right? I'm still trying to learn it, but they really understood it. This positive experience had me feeling optimistic as I approached what would be my final major purchase of the day, though I didn't know at the time. Table 4, racing against the clock. By the time I reached the 4th table that I wanted to go ahead and examine, I was starting to feel rushed, and this taught me one of the most important lessons of the entire day. Time management at card shows is crucial. I had been at the show for several hours, carefully examining cards and chatting with vendors, but I suddenly realized the show was winding down and I still had dozens of tables I wanted to visit. This time pressure affected my decision making. Instead of taking my usual careful approach to examining cards, I found myself making quicker decisions and potentially missing out on better deals or higher quality cards. The vendor at this table had some interesting options, but I felt like I couldn't give them the attention that they deserved. This experience taught me that card shows require strategic time management. You can't examine every single card at every single table. You need to have a plan and stick to it. Which brings me to the 5 essential tips every first-time card show attendee needs to know. After spending 5 intense hours navigating my first card show, I've identified 5 crucial strategies that will help you make the most of your experience and avoid the mistakes I made. Tip number 1, time flies when you're having fun, so plan accordingly. Those 5 hours at the card show felt like they passed in a single hour. Between examining cards, negotiating deals, and chatting with vendors, time disappears faster than you'd expect. My biggest regret was not having a clear plan for how to spend my time efficiently. Here's what I recommend. Before you go, decide how much time you want to spend at each type of table. Maybe give yourself 50, 10, 30 minutes per vendor, unless you find something really special. Now set a timer on your phone if you have to. Trust me, you'll want to see as many tables as possible. And getting caught up at the first few vendors will limit your options later. Tip number 2, negotiate respectfully. Don't be that guy. During my time at the show, I overheard several vendors complaining about customers who would offer 60% of asking price and then walk away when they decline. This kind of lowball negotiating is not only disrespectful, but it's counterproductive. Think about it from the vendor's perspective. They've driven hours to get here, paid for the table, and are trying to make a living. Offering 60% of market value is essentially asking them to lose money on their inventory. I found that offering 85% for multiple cards was pretty well received, with some vendors countering at 92%. Now this felt like a fair range that respected their investment while still giving me a reasonable discount. Tip number 3, bring cash and know your budget. This might seem obvious, but many vendors prefer cash transactions and some offer additional discounts for cash purchases. I saw several potential deals fall through because buyers only had cards or wanted to use payment apps that vendors didn't accept. Set a realistic budget before you go and bring that amount in cash. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement and overspend, especially when you're seeing cards you've been eyeing for months. Having a physical card cash limit helps keep your spending in check. Tip number 4, dress comfortably and stay hydrated. Remember how I mentioned it was hot out inside? This isn't just a comfort issue, it's a practical one. You'll be walking for hours, standing while examining cards, and potentially carrying purchases. Wear comfortable shoes, dress in layers or less layers, and bring a water bottle. I saw several collectors who looked exhausted at the corner of the convention, and they just seemed uncomfortable, and it definitely affected their ability to go ahead and buy cards from tables. Don't let physical discomfort ruin your card show experience. Tip number 5, don't be afraid to walk away. Not every card or deal will be right for you, and that's perfectly okay. I saw too many people making impulse purchases just because they were at the card show and felt like they had to buy something. At the same time, I also saw people walk away when they felt like the deal wasn't right. If a price doesn't feel right, if a card's condition isn't what you're looking for, or if a vendor's attitude rubs you the wrong way, it's completely fine to say thank you and move on. There are hundreds of other tables with thousands of other cards. Don't sell for something you'll regret later. But beyond these tactical tips, I learned something even more important about the human side of card show. The human element, why vendor relationships matter. Here's something that really stood out to me during my first card show experience. The vendors who took the time to greet me and introduce themselves made a lasting impression that went far beyond the cards that they were selling. I come from a background in medical school where we spent our entire semester studying professionalism and patient care, and I could see how those same interpersonal skills translate perfectly to the vendor-customer relationship. When a vendor looked up from their phone, made eye contact, and said something like, "Hey, how's it going? I'm John. What's your name and what are you looking for?" It completely changed the dynamic of our interaction. Compared to that vendor who remained seated, scrolling through their phones, and really looks like they don't want to be there, even if their prices were competitive, the lack of personal collection in those types of vendors made me less likely to spend time at their tables or remember their business for future shows. This might seem like a small detail, but relationships are hugely important in the card collecting community, I feel like. The vendors who made me feel welcome are the ones I'll seek out in the future and recommend to other collectors. For anyone considering vending at card shows, remember that you're not just selling cards, you're building relationships that could last for years. A simple greeting and genuine interest in helping customers find what they're looking for can set you apart from dozens of other vendors selling similar products. This focus on relationships and community is actually what made my first card show experience so memorable, despite some of the challenges that I faced. After reflecting on my entire card show experience, here's my honest assessment. If you're a beginner collector who's been considering attending a card show, let this be your encouragement to give it a shot. I can't tell you how many card shows I've passed on in my city that I won't be passing up any longer. Yes, it was overwhelming at first. I made some mistakes with some time management and probably missed out on some great deals, but the overall experience was incredibly valuable, both for the cards I acquired and the insights that I gained about the collecting community. Even though I went by myself, I still had a great time. However, I do think it would be more enjoyable with a family member or a friend who shares the same passion for the hobby. Having someone to discuss potential purchases with, split up to cover more tables, or simply share the excitement of great finds would definitely enhance my experience. Now, the cards I picked up will hopefully grade well with PSA, but more importantly, I now understand a bit more how card shows work, what to expect from vendors, and how to approach future shows with a better strategy. If there's a card show in your city, I highly recommend checking it out. Start with realistic expectations, bring a clear budget, and focus on learning rather than finding the deal of the century. The experience itself is worth the price of admission, and you might just discover a new favorite aspect of the hobby. Now that I've shared everything I learned at my card show, you're probably wondering about these gradable cards I mentioned hunting for. In my next video, I'll be doing a detailed examination of every card I picked up at the Front Row Card Show, discussing why I think each one has a 10 grading potential, and showing you exactly what I'm sending off to PSA for my first ever grading submission. Make sure to watch this video here.